From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Toledot, the eyes of Esav. We noticed something interesting about Esav, and that is that he's Admoni. He is reddish. Now, we say to ourselves, well, who else is reddish in Tanakh? And strangely, it's David. Now, the association with this reddishness is not necessarily positive. We have a Medrash Rabbah that says that when Samuel, the prophet, Shmuel, encounters David to anoint him for the first time, he was scared. He said, he's reddish. And it reminded him of Esav. And we know that Esav is a shofech damim. He's a person who spills blood. The rocks in his territory are red. He's known as red. And he's a man of blood and murder. And when Samuel sees David, he sees blood. He sees red. So God says to him, don't worry. He's Admoni im yefei einayim. He has beautiful eyes. So somehow that cancels out the reddishness which is associated with murder. He has beautiful eyes. Now, what does that mean? Esav horeg aval zeh midas Sanhedrin horeg. They both kill. But when Esav kills, it's against all concepts of morality, justice. And when David kills, he kills based on the Sanhedrin. If Sanhedrin says, go out, fight the war, he fights. They say, don't fight the war, he doesn't fight. The rabbis say that a war that's to defend Jews against the enemy needs no Sanhedrin. A war that's to conquer lands that are rightfully part of the land of Israel needs no Sanhedrin. But a war beyond the borders would require a Sanhedrin. And we do find David in the story of Keilah. He does ask the Urim V'Tumim, he asks for advice from God as to whether he should fight, help them or not. So there's a difference. They're both people who spill a lot of blood. Later on, God sort of accuses, in Divrei Yamim, accuses David of being one who spilled blood. For that, he perhaps could not build a temple. But there's a big difference. David spills blood as a warrior in just wars, the wars of God, as his wife Abigail says to him, Milchamot Hashem ata nilcham, you fight the wars of God. These are wars that are sanctioned by God to have the Jewish people take the land of Israel as they must. Esav, however, just a plain, simple murderer. He did eventually conquer some land which is justly his, but there were also unjust murders in there as well. But this idea that there's the reddishness and there's the eyes makes me think of several other midrashim and agadot. Firstly, we have the Gemara in Baba Basra, Kuf Chaf Gimel. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, that after all, Rivka, we know that Rivka had special eyes. Now, some of the commentators who are the Pashtanim, the simple commentators, they say, well, she had soft eyes, Parshat Vayetze, beautiful eyes. After all, there's this comparison of Rachel, she was beautiful, and Leah, we're going to say she's ugly, she has beautiful eyes. So it's parallel. Rachel was beautiful, and Leah had beautiful eyes. However, there's an idea, Rashi quotes this Gemara in Baba Basra, that actually there was a problem. Because there were four cousins, children of Lavan, and the children of Yitzchak and Rivka. So Lavan had two daughters. Leah was the oldest, of course, and Rachel was younger. Yitzchak and Rivka had two sons. Esav was the oldest. So they figured, Hagedolah lagdolah, v'aktana lakatan. Hagedolah lagadol, v'aktana lakatan. The older one, that's Esav, should marry the older one, Leah. And the younger one, Yaakov, should marry the younger one, Rachel. And in fact, Yaakov and Rachel seemed to be a match made in heaven. But when Leah heard this, she said, well, what kind of fellow is this older cousin of mine? And they said, he's a murderer's type. And for that, her eyes were not beautiful, but they were soft. They had been worn away by her tears. So Leah had special eyes. There were eyes that were teared, worn away by the suffering of the the idea that she would be associated with Esav. Now, this association didn't end. As a matter of fact, the Gemara in Sota we had recently in the Daf Yomi said that, in Daf Yud Gimel on 13a, says that Esav died around the same time as Yaakov, and they came to be buried together. So Yaakov said, well, this is my place, the bowl of soup. I sold the rights. I'm entitled to be buried here. Or there's some Midrashim say that when at the funeral of Yitzchak, they made a deal, you take all the money of my father and I get the tomb of the patriarchs. But the children of Esav said, no. What do you mean? He sold the birthright, but you took half the tomb of the patriarchs. Leah is buried here, and I get the other half for Esav. Now stop right there. The family of Esav is suggesting that Esav be buried next to Leah. So Esav had eyes on Leah for the beginning, and he had eyes on Leah even to his death. He wanted to be buried with Leah. At least if he couldn't live with her, he could die with her. He could be buried with her. And of course, the Jews didn't let it happen, and what happened? Hushim, the son of Dan, he couldn't hear what's going on, what discussions going on, what are they talking about? He said, well, when Naphtali went to get the deed to prove that it's our tomb, we'll wait here for a few days. A few days? Our grandfather's sitting here in disgrace. So he either chopped off his head, or according to the Gemara, he hit his head and his eyes popped out. Very strange Agadah. Esav's eyes pop out and they fall on either the bed or the feet of Yaakov, and there they're buried. So we like to say, well, so what is this? What does that mean that the eyes fell? So we have many interpretations. Many interpretations. One is that his head, those who say his head fell in there, that Esav, his body was evil, but at least his head had some good ideas. If it's the letter ayin is the same as the word ayin for eye. So if you take the ayin off of Esav, it's very bad. Shav. What's left is sav or shav, nothingness, vanity. But the ayin is good. Ayin is a good thing. So the eyes fell in. The eyes, the only good part of him, the ayin fell in, whereas the shav, the nothingness, the vanity of vanities, which is Esav, that did not fall in. Or, since he had eyes for Leah, he was punished, and the eyes fell in. It's also not a punishment. It's also that those eyes came and slept next to Leah. They were buried, indeed, next to Leah. Some other commentaries, Ben Yehoyada, the great commentary on the Agadah, he says, well, he had some merit to be buried in the tomb of the patriarchs. What's that? The great tragedy. Remember when he lost the blessing from his father? He was entitled. His father wanted to give him a bracha. He was stolen. And by Yizak, Zakag Dolam Morai, he cried this great cry, and he was so sad, and he shed 2 tears. So he said, well, those were tears that were shed, and you did suffer in this world. For those 2 tears, your 2 eyes will be buried in the tomb of the patriarchs. Or someone have a cute interpretation. He was a Rasha. Esav, HaRasha. You know what Esav's last name is? HaRasha, the wicked one. But the word Rasha, if you take off the ayin, and if his eyes, the ayin falls out, then all he is a Rash, just a poor fellow. So we kind of denuded him of his wickedness, and all he was left is being just a poor fellow. Or the eye represents 70. Ayin is 70 in numerology. And the 70 nations, so to speak, represented by the chief, the Romans, the Esav, fall to Jacob's feet, Jacob's bed. It's a defeat of everything that ever was. It's a defeat of all the nations of the world. It's this dream of the end of days when all the nations of the world will be subservient in a spiritual way to the Jewish people. But then we say, wait a second, let's suggest the following. We know that David had reddishness, which means that he's a warrior. He's ready to kill, albeit with the eyes of the Sanhedrin, with proper discernment based on a proper judgment. He also had beautiful eyes. Where did he get those eyes from? The eyes are the eyes of Leah, the special, beautiful eyes of Leah. Esav had something special about his eyes. They landed out in the tomb of the patriarchs. And Esav had the reddishness. He had that ability to be a great warrior. Ideally, there was some sort of a shidduch in the minds of God's mind that there could be Leah with her beautiful eyes, her discernment, and Esav, a warrior, could come together. And you know what that would have produced? It would have produced the Mashiach himself, King David. But alas, Esav was no David, he was no Yishai. Esav was a murderer. They did not marry. But instead, generations and generations later, the coming together of the eyes of Leah, or the ideal eyes of Esav, with the reddishness and the ability to fight the wars of God, came together. The person of David. David is that ideal combination with the ability to fight for right and live in a world where there's a lot of complicated things, and to be able to stand up against evil and fight for right, to create a place for the Jewish people, to live out the legacy of the dreams of the Jewish people as outlined in the Torah and the Bible. And also, he had the eyes, the discernment of when to kill and when not to kill. As Abigail told him, don't kill my family. When not to murder, when not to kill. And he had the eyes of Leah, the eyes of the suffering of the Jewish people, which enabled us to have that righteousness to say, look, we've suffered. We need a place for the Jewish people. We need a place for the Jews to live, where we can live in peace, where we can live without being threatened to be killed and massacred. Alas, Esav, in Yitzchak's eyes, Esav was this possible great warrior who could combine with Leah's soft eyes. Together they could have made the Mashiach himself. But alas, that would not come true. Not at that time. But one day there would be an Esav-like character, known as David. And together with the eyes of Leah, he would save the Jewish people. Thanks for joining us here at the Anshe Sephardi Beth El congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee. Join us each week for the discussion of the Parsha, various holidays. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.